setting up Get Signals and HubSpot to effectuate job change monitoring is extremely simple and extremely powerful. So to get started, I'm going to show you our guided setup wizard, which any new user account would be prompted to utilize after you log in for the first time. Select Social Engagement Sync. So the first step in this process is going to be connect HubSpot. In our case, we already have it connected. If it wasn't, you just click on Connect HubSpot. It'll prompt you to go through a typical OAuth flow, approve the permissions that we need for our connector, and off you go. The next step is to basically configure where in HubSpot or what specific data contact property you're storing, a LinkedIn username for each of your contacts. We default to LinkedIn accounts, and then we use the LinkedIn URL field as a fallback. These are just defaults that already exist in HubSpot. If you have something different, you just click this and all of your custom data fields and the default data properties will display. If we encounter a situation where a contact does not have a LinkedIn username or URL stored inside HubSpot, you can optionally enable our LinkedIn profile finder, and we'll use other data that's inside the profile for your contact to try to find their LinkedIn profile. If we're successful, it'll cost you 10 credits inside the platform, but we'll also write that data back to their profile and to the default LinkedIn account. In this case, the property that's storing the username. So you get that data back, and then we're able to use it for our monitoring as well. The next step is configuring what we refer to as import sync rule. And what a sync rule is basically a contact import configuration. And in this case, it starts with determining what type of data in HubSpot you want to use, because you don't have to monitor your entire contact database. It might not be relevant. So the two options you have are to monitor a specific list or to monitor based on lifecycle stage. So for the list, you can do static lists, you can do active lists, an active list being something that's perpetually updated in HubSpot based on certain rules. So, custom data properties equaling certain values, certain behaviors or activities being observed in the platform. So those people get pushed into the list. Now, you can have as many import rules as you want. You're not limited in them, and I'll show you in a minute exactly why that is. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and just select an active list that I created, which is top tier customers that we want to monitor for job change activities. And so with the actual monitoring, as I was saying, so you can have as many import rules as you want. And basically, the relationship exists like this. You'll have your source in HubSpot that is then feeding into the import rule, and then the import rule feeds into a signal. And the signal is just a monitoring configuration. So in this case, we're monitoring for job changes, and that's the type of signal that's going to get created. You can have as many of these as you want. So if you need to have, or if you have 25 different lists of buckets that you want to monitor and you have different contacts in each of those, that's perfectly fine. You're not limited by any of that. So for the actual configuration, so we're going to check for job changes. If we observe that someone not only has a title change, but they also left the company and went to a new organization, you can also enable our email finder, a waterfall email finder, to try to find a updated email contact for your contact that's moved jobs and moved positions to an entirely different company. If we find an email, we also run it through our real-time verification. As long as everything passes, we'll also sync that back to HubSpot as well. So then the next thing is just the frequency. So in this case, we recommend doing weekly, but if you really need to be on top of certain contacts and they're higher priority in terms of if they move jobs or positions, like your existing customers or deals that are still open in your pipeline that are close to closing, knowing when a stakeholder may have suddenly left the job could be make or break for a deal. So you can do, as little as daily, but, otherwise weekly, every 2 weeks, monthly. So you have a lot of control over the frequency. And then the final configuration is just the number of, maximum number of contacts to import. Our ceiling is 500 for a single rule. But like I said, if you have more than 500, you can break these down into different rules and different signals. All of the data ends up back in HubSpot. So that's all that really matters. So once you do that, create rule. We automatically create the signal, so you don't have to do it. You don't have to configure anything. Literally everything is happening right here in this wizard. The other options you have, particularly for job changes, you can get notifications when someone's job changes. So if you have a high priority, signal that you create, again, like if these are high priority customers, for example, you might want to get human eyes on a role change as soon as possible, whether that's an internal promotion or if someone has left to a different organization, you can get notified to a mailbox or any combination of mailboxes. So if there's multiple people on your team, you can send alerts to as many people as you need or to a Slack channel. So that's the whole route of the config. Then you'll go through a review and, just chime in with what's been configured. And at this point, everything's already set up anyway. So now in terms of what this looks like when we observe a job change. So we'll take John Doe here. So the first thing we do is all the new attributes that we discover for someone, like if their title changed, obviously we write that over. If the company changed, then that information gets synced over. Any new email address that we find, that gets synced over. Same for like direct dial. If you enable our mobile phone number finder, that will get pushed over. We also add a note that summarizes all the changes we observed, and we also include their most updated LinkedIn profile as well. So you have that, and your entire team has that, both for historical reference in terms of where they were and then, what specifically we changed. We have about 60 different data fields that you can sync over as part of the updates. We have all the defaults, your typical defaults, already pre-configured with the integration when it comes set up. But you can go in and you can customize this. You can see there's a bunch of different data, company information that can be pushed over, funding data, education, employment history, all of these things. So, and these can all be pushed over to custom data properties inside of HubSpot. So that's it. A little bit longer than I wanted to go, but this is our connector. Any questions, please reach out. But otherwise, you can see it's point click. It's about 2 or 3 minutes to get everything set up and running. And then it all runs in autopilot. So every single day, whether or weekly, depending on what the frequency is that you have configured for your signal, this will be scanning through and looking at every single one of the contacts in your signal that you're monitoring, looking for a job change. And then once we discover one, that will be pushed back to HubSpot. It's completely on autopilot. No scroll feeding for you. There's nothing that you have to, sit around and input, search, nothing. All this is just available inside the CRM for your entire team.